Hello everyone, I'm Miss Rachel from the Antioch Public Library District, and today I'm here for Mural Makers. I'm going to be showing you some techniques for drawing. I'm going to be talking to you about your prompt. I have several pictures in various stages of completion that go along with the prompt to help you get an understanding of what it is we're trying to do today without giving you too much instruction, because I don't want you to draw the exact same thing that I just finished drawing. I want you to follow the theme and make whatever your heart desires. This month's theme is ocean creatures. You can draw any animal that lives anywhere near or under the water, as long as you include water somehow in your picture. This month we'll be working mostly with pencil and colored pencils, but if you have crayons or markers at home and you would rather use those, that's alright too. You're going to take a sheet of construction paper, one of the ones I gave you preferably, but if you like the ones you have at home better, that's okay too. And you're going to start out with the white paper. You're going to take a pencil. You want to start drawing in pencil so that if you make a mistake, you can erase it. And in going with that theme, you want to draw very, very light lines. Notice how I'm barely pressing the pencil to the page at all. I'm going to go ahead and draw a sort of fish. It's going to look kind of cartoony because I'm not great at drawing fish, but that's okay. See how this basic shape that I started with? You might not even be able to see that on the camera yet. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add some fins up here. And one down here. And I'm going to draw the tail. And I'm going to erase the bottom half of the circle that I drew earlier. And because that shape was not exactly what we wanted, we're going to go back and fix it, which is okay. That's one of the reasons why we didn't draw very thick. And because I erased that line from before, I am going to have to go back and repair my fin from before. And the harder you draw when you make your first image, the more difficult it'll be to erase it, and that'll make it harder if you make any mistakes or you want to start over. Now I'm going to put an eye here. Get that and that. Pupil. And we want to draw some scales. And because I made this fish body quite large, we're going to go ahead and make the tail even bigger, which will get us a little more erasing, but not much. And as we make our drawing, we want to go from this end of the paper to this end, and from this end down to this end. One of the ways you will do that is by adding background details once you've finished your drawing. Now that I've got the basic outline down, I would start to add color and more details to my drawing. Because I do not want to sit here and do an entire picture right in front of you, that would take a long time, and I'm sure you would find it extremely boring. I'm going to show you some drawings that I have in various stages of completion to give you an idea of what your project will look like when it's finished. But this is just a very basic idea, since you may not be drawing a goldfish like I drew. One of the projects that I completed all the way was an octopus. And as you can see here, it covers the entire page. I've got the nice clean lines of the octopus body, its head, its tentacles, some eyes. I've got bubbles in the water, and I have the water background behind it. I started with those very light pencil lines, and then once I had the exact shape I wanted, I went around with a black fine tip pen and I traced out the lines that I wanted. You can make that choice, or you can use your markers or your colored pencils to draw your final lines. When you're adding your color, this is when you start to darken up those pencil lines from before. So here we have another drawing that I started to color in but didn't finish. And I'm going to show you how you use the colored pencils to add color to your drawing. Turtles have spots all over their skin. They're similar to freckles or sunspots. They get them from being in sunlight, I believe, although I could be wrong on that, and if I am, I apologize. I drew them in a very dark color because when you're shading, you want the fins and the arms and the legs and the head to all come out in a very light green, which is the sort of skin color that turtles have, and we want the spots to show up on top of that. So since I was coloring the green skin of the turtle after I drew the spots, because if I did the skin first, it would be almost impossible to get the darker color to show up on top of it because the paper would be covered with the light color. So I drew the spots first in the darker green, and now I'm going to go over it in my lighter green, my more green. So I take my green colored pencil, and believe it or not, but this will be a lighter green than the one I have here. The green on the paper is also, oh, you know what? I'm looking now, and that's a different shade of green than I used before. So I'm going to go back and get out the exact green from the first time, which is my yellow-green here, so that the entire turtle body has the same color skin. You can see, again, I'm using light lines because if I do have to change colors or I do make a mistake, it's better to do it now when I'm doing lightly than later once I've got everything down. Because I'm coloring in a wide area, I'm using gentle strokes, and as I get close to the turtle's body, I make the lines come directly out of it so it looks like the arm is coming out of the shell instead of just appearing anywhere. If I were to color like this, or like this, or like this, it wouldn't look like the turtle's arm was coming out of his shell, which is exactly where it comes from. So that's the kind of lines you want to use when you have body parts connecting to one another. And you'll notice how I gave the fins a nice rounded edge to make them look more 3D, to have them pop out of the page just the way that the other drawing did, except the other drawing I used the thick black line, whereas here I'm using my color. And as I go along, I'll add color to the other levels as well, including doing the background. Now let me demonstrate what I'm going to do for the background of this drawing, which will be very different from the background of this drawing. For starters, turtles live in shallower water, and they come out of the water sometimes. So I'm going to begin with a very light blue. In fact, this blue is the only one in my fancy colored pencil set. I don't think that's a good choice for my starting blue. I am going to use this sort of sky blue color that I have right here. And in addition to that, I'm going to give the turtle a little bit of a shadow, because while octopuses live deep underwater and you would never see its shadow in the ocean, you might see a shadow underneath a turtle depending on where in the water it was. So we're just going to add a little bit of line down here. And as you'll probably notice if you went outside and looked at your own body in the sun, your shadow doesn't take the shape of all your details and contours. It's only a very basic blobby person shape. So we're going to give it a blobby turtle shape. And in fact, because I'm drawing it on the side here, we won't see the turtle's head in this part of the drawing too much because the arm is blocking it. And now we've got a nice blob, we've got the turtle body here, and I'm doing nice round marks to make the black come together and cover all the space on the paper. And then we'll have a nice edge here with the leg. And again, I'm going to come back later and add more color to that, make it a little bit more detailed. But that's the very basics of how you would get the shadow down. Now on the other side, where his shadow cannot be seen, I'm going to start by drawing the blue lines, and I'm going to do little wavy lines instead of the round lines that I used when I drew the deep sea ocean view, because the turtle is so close to the shore and so close to the top of the water that you will be able to see the waves in the water as it swims around. And so we're going to draw nice wavy blue lines here for the turtle's water underneath its body. And then as we get close to the turtle's body, we want to show that the water is going around his body and under it, and maybe a little over it, depending on how heavy the turtle is and whether it's swimming or sinking, and how deep the water is. but you do not want the water to go straight across. You can have the water go over a fin, but mostly we're going to have it go around the turtle. And so you're going to stop your line as you get to the turtle's head, or the head of another animal in shallow water. If you're having an animal in deep water like my octopus, you're going to draw the water all the way up to the body, and then you'll just come to a stop at the line for the body because you can't have water over your picture, although you might want to give it, because octopuses do live under the water and are underwater at all times, you may want to go over your final drawing with a little bit of blue just to fill in those gaps in color and to show that the water is on top of the octopus as well, because the octopus is under the water as opposed to on top of it like our turtle. When I did my octopus, I did something very different with the water. I started with my lightest blue. Actually, no, I take that back. I started with my darkest blue, which would be this blue right here. And here I have a photocopy I made of the octopus drawing before I colored it in. You can see I cut off the top of his head, but that's okay because I'm only using this as an example to show you the different ways that you could color in the water underneath your drawing and around your drawing. So what I did here is I did nice round circle motion with the colored pencil in order to create a tossy-turny, swirly water pattern, which is what you would see if you were down under the water and you were scuba diving. You actually came upon an octopus. So nice, big circles, ovals, that kind of shape. And you can see it gives the water a completely different texture than we have in the picture next to us right here, where we started with the lighter blue. And then, to give the water a little bit more texture and color, which is what you would see if you were underwater, I took a sort of medium blue, and I did the exact same pattern of the swirly right on top of it. And then I even added a little bit of green, because there's typically algae and other sea life under the water that is green. And I just very, very lightly, so that you could barely see it at all, put that slight hint of green into the water. Now that I've shown you a couple different examples of how to use the colored pencils and your number 2 pencil, now I would like for you to take the supplies that you have and the construction paper that I gave you and draw your own ocean picture. It can be any kind of animal you can think of, anything that lives in or near the water. Just off the top of my head, some of the most interesting ones I think of are octopuses, sharks, whales, dolphins, any kind of fish that's an ordinary looking fish. A shark is a kind of fish as well, but sharks are separate from fish too, as far as the way we look at them and the way we think about them. You might want to do a penguin or a seagull or some other animal that you can think of and I can't come up with right now. Finish up your drawing, write your name on the back, and then bring it to the library so that we can put it up in our mural on the bulletin board. I'll see you soon, and I hope you have a great time making your drawing.